Time now for the Nick Hart Show, our weekly chat with the Gibson Southern Titans head football coach. The Nick Hart Show on 89.1 The Bash is made possible by Brett's Car Care, Chips, Sell My Tees, Cox Family Eye Care PC, Daylight Land Management, Du Bois County Garage Doors Incorporated, Duke Energy, Fort Branch Dairy Queen, Gerald and Trudy Bledsoe, Hobb Range Hood Company, Hobstadt Summerfest, Hydorn Construction, Hilliard Lions, Matt Monroe, in memory of Darwin and Eric Kalis, Johnson Commercial Mowing, Julia's School of Dance, Kathy Solman Photography, Kiesel Enterprises Incorporated, Kissel Farms Incorporated, Lewis Plumbing and Heating, Make Your Mark, Mayflower Gardens and Gifts, MyTech Systems, Pole Concrete Construction, Pro Rehab, Progressive Health Rehabilitation and Orthopedic Associates, Roberts Boring, Trenching and Excavating LLC, Sandy's Pizza, Schellers Carriage Inn, Scotty's Lawn Equipment, South Gibson Grain, 10 Barge Seed, Trapping and Removal of Animal Pest, Titan Youth Football League, United Fidelity Bank, at Mickle of Agrigold, and by Ziliac Enterprises. Now, the Nick Hart Show on 89.1 The Bash.
Welcome to the Nick Hart Show. I am Bob Bowser, and joining me is head coach of the Gibson Southern Titans, Nick Hart. And coach, your Titans finished the season 8-3 after the loss to Heritage Hills on Friday night, 21-20 in the sectional semifinal game. So let's take a look at the team and individual stats from that ball game. Starting off with number of plays, complete dominance in the stats here. Gibson Southern had 70 offensive plays for Heritage Hills having 44. Total offensive yardage, the Titans had 399 yards, while Heritage Hills had 253. And here's a stat that really sticks out, something that even on your best games never happens. But time of possession, your ball club had it 26 minutes and 15 seconds compared to 21 minutes and 3 seconds for Heritage Hills, a team that really loves to run the football, and you had more time of possession than they did.
Yeah, I think that goes back to, the amount of time we had the ball with all the plays we ran. And then, obviously in the fourth quarter, the clock was our friend and, milked that a little bit. And that probably is kind of where that stat came from. But, no, I think if you look at, if you would have told me that we'd run 70 plays and they'd run 40 or, whatever you said, and then the yardage discrepancy, you think those are two stats that I would have definitely taken going into the game to give us a chance to win the ball game.
Well, looking at some other stats here, rushing yard-wise, you had 54 carries for 273 yards, while Heritage Hills had 39 for 225. Passing yards, Heritage Hills had 28 passing yards. Your Titans had 126. As far as turnovers, it was turnover-free ball game. Exactly what your ball club needed. And now that I just thought about it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time that you've been turnover-free and a loss went up on the board this year.
Yeah, that's correct.
I really didn't want to put a dagger in there, nothing at all, but it just hit me in my mind. I'm like, wow, in all of the wins, we were turnover-free, yet in the losses, we weren't. But in this loss, and that's the thing, right there, had it in the grasp. But looking down a little bit further, third down conversions, 6 for 14 were the Titans, 42.9%. I know you would like to see that probably more in the realm of 9 or 10 for 14.
Yeah, but against a good defense, that's going to become tougher sledding. And, and then I think we were great on fourth down, and that was, so some of those third downs that didn't get converted, we got on fourth down and we're able to extend them, two that stick out. One was the pass to Murphin down the middle of the field that led to the first score. That was like a 4th and 8. And then we kind of did the fake sneak toss to Spindler on fourth down. I think that was a fourth down to extend another drive, and I think both those were scoring drives. So, those were two big fourth down conversions that, helped us extend as well.
Well, and that's the thing. When you look at fourth down, you were 2 for 2. So when you combine third and fourth down, you were 8 for 16, which is 50%. Mm-hmm. But I'm quite certain as you sit back and you're going to sit back over the winter time and the spring and the summer, one more third down somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that game, one more third down, and it'd been like, man, I'd feel a whole lot better. But that's what happens when we play the games on Friday nights under the lights.
Yeah, you said this winter and stuff. It might be the winter of 2025. And
I'll be retired then. I like how your mind works.
And moving forward. So probably sitting at my son's, who's one's graduation, thinking about getting another third down in that game. But no, that's you hit the nail on the head there.
And then penalty yards. Something I really haven't talked much about this year would be the penalty yardage after a game. 8 penalties for 65 yards for your Titans, 2 for 20 for Heritage Hills. And so penalty flags kind of, they reared their ugly head on this night.
Yeah, I think, too, that kind of stick out is, you're talking about third downs. We have a chance in the fourth quarter to pick up a third down, and we jump off sides 2 times in a row. It turned it from like a 3rd and 6 to a 3rd and 16, and, really kind of changed the approach there. So, some of those penalties, like the pass interference and stuff, you're trying to make a play. But, that one, those 2 offsides, were big ones.
Well, looking at some of the individual stats now, Brady Allen was 8 for 13 on the evening, 103 yards. And Ben Butler was 2 for 3 for 23 yards. And oh my, do I have end zone dancing in my head on the one incompletion for Ben Butler, as he had Adam May wide open, and I think the wind might have just messed with that and made it a curveball.
Yeah, overshot him just a little bit, but they did a great job of executing, and until the throw, they did a great job of selling it and getting them to bite up.
And then on rushing stats, oh my word, this is phenomenal. Mitchell Spindler, 38 carries for 194 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ben Butler had 9 carries for 38 yards. Brady Allen had 6 carries for 21 yards. And Sterling Stalker had 1 carry for 20 yards. That's what's showing up on my stat sheet, so I'm going to roll with it here.
Yeah. He didn't have one. I'm sure it just missed number, as it went through there. But, no, we did a great job of running the ball the entire night.
Well, and then receiving stat-wise, again, 5 different guys catching the football. Logan Murphin leading the way here, had 3 receptions for 57 yards. Adam May had 3 receptions for 34 yards. Seth DeLong, 2 receptions for 32 yards. Mitchell Spindler had 1 catch for 8 yards, and Ben Butler had 1 reception for a negative 5 yards. So statistically speaking, but the problem is you don't win and lose based on stats, but statistically speaking, your ball club won this game hands down.
Yeah, in about every category. But like you said, we gave him the 2 short fields on the punt returns, and that was a big difference in the ball game. But no, I thought we did a great job of executing offensively and defensively throughout the game.
All right, so let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we will get your overall thoughts from that playoff game concerning the offense, defense, and special teams. But right now, we need to thank the folks that make the Nick Hart Show possible on 89.1 The Bash.
Touchdown! The Nick Hart Show is brought to you by Progressive Health Rehabilitation and Orthopedic Associates, Roberts Boring, Trenching, and Excavating, LLC, Sandy's Pizza, Scheller's Carriage Inn, Scotty's Lawn Equipment, South Gibson Grain, 10 Barge Seed, Trapping and Removal of Animal Pest, Titan Youth Football League, United Fidelity Bank, and by Ziliak Enterprises.
Thank you for listening to 89.1 The Bash and the Nick Hart Show. All right, Coach, let's start first off with your thoughts from the offense in the playoff game against Heritage Hills. And I'm going to say offensively, yes, in week 6, you had 400 and some yards of offense statistically, but there was the interception, there was a fumble, and at times there were a whole lot of just drop balls. In this game, they were plugged in and focused, whether it was the run game or the pass game, from play 1 till the very end of the ball game. Offensively, I'd give them an A.
I thought we did a great job on offense. I think their defense is lights out and really, really good, and it kind of shows I think scoring 20 points is the most they've given up all season. So, I thought our offense did a great job of executing the entire night, putting drives together, kind of controlling the football. And I'm not so worried about the time possession, but we controlled the pace of the game, which I thought was important. A lot of great things by our offense. Made a nice drive there at the end of the half to take the lead and go up 14-7. And then, even when they come back and take the lead, we put a march together and went right down and got down inside the 10 there. So, I thought our offense did a great job the entire night.
Well, let's go over to the defensive side now, where aside from one play, I'm going to say the 65-yard run by the fullback early in the game that led to their first score, that kind of hurt early on, but you know what? The defense got it back together. They gave up another drive, but then come up with a huge goal line stand. And, boy, I tell you, I was really hoping in that fourth quarter that it was going to come onto their shoulders. Something I couldn't have said every game this year, but on this game, on this night, I was ready for that defense to be in control of the fourth quarter and give them a shot to show that, you know what, we're playing well tonight. Let's finish the job.
I think our defense did a great job. I thought our coaching staff did a great job preparing them throughout the week, because it's certainly not a easy offense to stop. And I think, maybe it's easy to say, well, they run, they're one-dimensional, they run the ball all the time. But they're not one-dimensional because of the way that they do it. And you have to defend so many people on each play, and they do a really good job of executing that. I thought our coaches put together a great plan. I thought our kids bought into it very well and executed it well through not only on Friday but throughout the week, and did a great job and made several big plays. We kind of talked about this the first time we played them. In that second and third quarter, when we were really doing a great job on defense, we were winning on first down a lot. It was 2nd and 11, it was 2nd and 9, and we were getting them off schedule a little bit. I thought that was, huge, and those guys. We were down 2 starters on the defense side of the ball too, so that makes that performance even better. I think 2 really darn good football players. So our guys stepped up. Some of the offense guys came over and helped with that. But we had some guys step up and make some big time plays, and did a great job of really containing a great offense.
Well, and one thing we always talk about, there's always 3 phases to every game. There's the offense, the defense, and now, while I'm glad we're on radio, so that way nobody has to see my face, and that's a good thing because that may hurt people's feelings just to look at my face, but the special teams on Friday night, obviously we've got to talk about the fact that we gave up the 2 punts there at the end. We had a high snap that led to a missed extra point, and then the final field goal opportunity to win it. Those were not positives for the ball club on Friday night. No,
I thought the first punt return and tip your hat to their kid. I thought he was letting it roll dead, and he kind of played possum there a little bit and scooped it up. But I thought the first punt return really changed the game. We started playing the clock there when we got in the fourth quarter, because I thought with their style of offense, the clock was our friend. And that's not really my style whatsoever. But just the way they have to move the football. I thought, we got down to like 6 minutes there before that first punt, and they were going to have to drive twice in order to beat us. Felt good about that. And then when they returned that first punt to like the 10, the clock was no longer the friend. Obviously the second punt return hurt because it set them up for the score to take the lead. But I thought the first one, really changed the game, and it really did. And we had a chance to make some plays on them. And again, credit their kid for making a great play, and some of the blocks that they had on it. But that was the big one, I thought.
Well, and then there at the end of the ball game, an opportunity. Something I wondered, and maybe this is where Jake wanted it, is you had it there on the right hash. Is that something that Jake felt comfortable with, being on the right hash, or that just happened to be where things were? Because, and you never know. I mean, it was just a strange situation. But from a 25-yarder, boy, I tell you what, I saw quotes that you've had on social media, 100% every time. 100% every time. I'll put Jake Novotny out there, and I'd bet my house, and I'd have lost my house Friday night, but most times I'd be keeping my house.
Yeah, he's so accurate that the hash wasn't a big deal to him, and I'll stand by it. I love the kid, and he did a great job for us all year. And if we were playing again on Friday night and in the same situation, I'd trot him right back out there to do it. He did a great job for us all year, and it's just one of those things that happens. Like I kind of told him after the game, that was the last play of the game. That didn't decide the game. We had chances to make tackles. We had chances to make blocks. We wouldn't have gotten into the position where he would even get to kick. So that was one play in about 120 or 30 plays that happened on Friday night.
Well, and that's the thing. You had 70 plays on Friday night. Any one of those 70 breaks off for a touchdown.
Yep.
Because you have the athletes that clearly could do it, and not just one or two. You have a good handful of athletes that could break one off at any point. If any of those 70 plays had broke off and scored, we're not even talking about this. We're talking next week, looking forward to defeating Southridge.
Absolutely. And that's, I think sometimes it is a little bit cliche, but it's so true that, football is the ultimate team game, because there was so many other plays that happened in the game. That just happened to, be the last one.
All right. Well, Coach, we need to thank some of the supporters of the Nick Hart Show. And when we come back, we'll look back on the 2019 season and talk about this senior class as you are listening to the Nick Hart Show on 89.1 The Bash.
The Nick Hart Show is brought to you by Hilliard Lyons and Matt Monroe, Hydorn Construction, Hobstadt Summerfest, Hobb Range Hood Company, Gerald and Trudy Bledsoe, Fort Branch Dairy Queen, Duke Energy, Du Bois County Garage Doors Incorporated, Daylight Land Management, Cox Family Eye Care PC, Chips, Sell My Tees, Brett's Car Care, and Matt Mickle of AgriGold.
Welcome back to the Nick Hart Show on 89.1 The Bash. I am Bob Bowser, and joining me is head coach of the Titans, Nick Hart. So, Coach, let's talk about the 2019 season overall. I mean, all those way back, holy cow, it seemed like we had 7 or 8 weeks of 9,000-degree weather. But really, game one I thought was kind of comfortable, considering it could have been a whole lot worse. It was comfortable, but then there were some of those nights that's like, wow, sweat just pouring off this bald head like no other. But, it was one of those seasons that, hey, you went up, you play a 6A team, Southridge or Southport. It was one of those strange. Play Salem in the postseason, first round. Go clear the other side of the state for a quote unquote sectional game. But thanks IHSAA for your Google Map skills. That's my chance to get the last dig on it on that topic. But talk a little about the 2019 season and what memories that you're going to pull from this.
Well, I think if you just kind of look at the results, we lost to a 6A team, lost to the number 2 team in 3A twice, and won every other game. I think, we achieved a lot of great things. Nobody's, excited that it's done already, but, we were able to, achieve some really good things and, win some good, tough ball games. Salem, Southridge, those are 2 really, tough wins. And, but, I think more importantly, just this group, we're in a relationship business and, those guys, I really enjoyed being around. They made it fun to go to practice every day and, which I love practice. Probably, I like it more than games. But sometimes, you have groups where it's not so fun because you kind of feel like you're dragging them along. And that wasn't this group at all. They worked hard in the weight room all off season, on the practice field, on the game field. And, we fought some execution issues for a while, but it was never a heart and desire and want to thing, and that's what you ask for as a coach. You can kind of work on some of the execution stuff, but you can't, the competitiveness and having the heart for it and all those things you can't fix, and that group certainly had that. You look at several times when we got down and our kids kept fighting throughout the year. That was this group to a T to me, and they were a lot of fun to be around at practice. We had a lot of fun and took care of a lot of business too. But it was a really fun group. No off the field issues or anything like that. It was just
those that right there, Coach. I'm going to cut you off a second. Those off field issues, and I'm going to pinpoint things. You're talking whether it's drinking or drugs or grades. Those things wear on a coach harder and faster than anything else. You can handle a fumble, an interception, a missed field goal, a bad snap, a missed tackle, but when you have to deal with grades, alcohol, and drugs. Those things kill, and it just wears you out as a coach.
Yeah, they do, and luckily we have such a great community with great parental support and everything. That's rarely an issue for us. So, I'm thankful for that, and that's just this group. They took care of business in every way that they needed to. We didn't have to, the off the field issues you talked about were certainly more important, but being a head high school football coach, sometimes you're chasing down guys that you haven't seen in the weight room for a while and stuff, and we didn't have any of that this year. It just we had to coach football. That's all we had to worry about, and that makes my job a lot more fun than some of the years where you're chasing down kids that haven't been in the weight room or have bad grades or whatever. So just a great group to be around.
Well, and speaking of the community that you mentioned earlier, we go up to Southport. That's in Indianapolis, south side of Indianapolis, and looked over across the field there that day on a beautiful, cloudless, sunny day on a Saturday, and the stands were packed. The crowd was huge. I mean, no matter where we went to, Southport, Salem, throughout the conference season, the support is big time for this Gibson Southern football team.
It's unbelievable. It really is. And I try and talk to our kids all the time about it's not like this everywhere. And, I know you and I have been a part of different schools and communities and stuff, but, the one thing is kids haven't. Most of our kids, granted you'll have kids move in and stuff, but 95% of your team has only ever known Gibson Southern, and I think sometimes for a 16-year-old kid, you just assume this is the way it's supposed to be, and that's not the way it is. So we're constantly trying to, or at least I'm constantly trying to impress that upon our kids about what a great job our community does in supporting us. Our parent group does such an unbelievable job. We draw Salem. It took one text message to say, hey, we need 2 charter buses, for next Friday night, and boom, it's done. And that's not the norm. Our parents and our community are the exception, and that makes my job a heck of a lot easier. And I think when you're able to do some of the nice things and have the support you do, it's so great for your program because younger kids see that, and that's something that they want to be a part of. And so just thankful for all of the community and parental support that we have in our program.
Well, and beyond the buses and the food, the butts in the seats.
Yeah,
I mean, standing right there cheering them along.
Yeah.
I mean, up there at Southport, they could have gave in and got beat by 4 scores.
Yeah.
But they fought clear to the end and really gave themselves a chance to possibly win that ball game. You go over to Salem, a cold, cold night. Bleachers are full. People are there. Not only is it just parents, but it's community members as well, rooting them on, and it really got them over the hump to a 2-score victory. So having the support, having the community and the parents showing up the way they did, that's huge.
It's unbelievable. It's such a great feeling, when the stands are packed, and we just have we have such an amazing community. It's a great thing to be a part of.
So let's talk a little about the seniors now. This senior class, if I remember right, 14 seniors. Is that right?
19.
19.
I believe.
Well, see,
I don't have it in
bad
front
math
of me,
on my problem.
No, it's a great group. Most of those kids have been with us along the whole way, and they've always been extremely hard workers. A lot of those kids have played a lot of football at the varsity level, and they set the tone for this year's team. So when I talked about, there wasn't off the field issues, there wasn't weight attendance issues, there wasn't those type of things. I truly believe that your seniors run your football team. They kind of have the ownership in the team, and a lot of times you're going to go how those seniors go. They set the tone for the football team. They took care of their business, and that helps the underclassmen show the underclassmen what needs to be done. So it's a great group of kids, and something that I said on Twitter after the game is, we're going to miss those guys, and I love each and every one of them. But I'm excited because they're such great kids. They won't be kids here for very long, and they're going to be successful in life and great husbands and fathers, and all of that down. The winning football games is important. That stuff's a lot more important, and I think that they're going to be great in that department.
All right, Coach. Well, there's one more segment to go, so we'll take some time to get a glimpse at the 2020 Gibson Southern Titans football team. But first, we need to thank some of the underwriters of the Nick Hart Show on 89.1 The Bash.
The Nick Hart Show is brought to you by Pro Rehab, Whole Concrete Construction, MyTech Systems, Mayflower Gardens and Gifts, Make Your Mark, Lewis Plumbing and Heating, Kissel Farms Incorporated, Kiesel Enterprises Incorporated, Kathy Solman Photography, Julia's School of Dance, Johnson Commercial Mowing, and in memory of Darwin and Eric Kalis.
Welcome back to the Nick Hart Show right here on 89.1 The Bash, or you may be using the free app to access the show on your cell phone. So, Coach, let's talk a little bit about 2020 Titans football. Looking at returning varsity players for this year, and maybe some of those guys from the JV and freshman team that may be stepping up to varsity next year.
Well, I think the first thing when you kind of look at 2020 is, it's going to be a different year. Our schedule extremely changes, and you add in Columbus North and Owensboro Senior, you keep Southport, you keep Southridge, you keep Heritage Hills, add in, keep Princeton, add in Boonville that's, had a couple of great years here, and a couple other Big 8 foes. I honestly think that maybe other than a couple than a couple of the 3A Indy parochial schools, we're playing the toughest 3A schedule in the state of Indiana. It's going to have us, extremely prepared for the playoffs. But it's going to be a challenge. I mean, those first 4 weeks of the season, when you have in, I actually think the first 6 weeks of the season, 5 of those 6 games are Columbus North, Owensboro Senior, Southport, Southridge, and Heritage Hills. That's 5 of the first 6. So right out of the gate, no offense to the Forest Park, who had a wonderful season. It's going to be a little bit different week 1 with what we're opening up at, and I just think that makes your spring and summertime even that much more important in making sure you're ready to play football from the start. So I think that's really exciting to get to play those type of teams week in and week out. But we got a good group coming back, and I think there's certainly I think you kind of go into the off season and you look at who you think you got coming back, returning starters, who you think it can plug in, and where we got to develop some guys at, and I think this is probably true in most 3A schools, but we got to develop some depth on the O&D line. I think that's kind of when you're looking at the big picture. We got some great running backs coming back. We got some great receivers coming back, whether they were varsity or plugging in from the lower level. Have a great quarterback coming back. So we got to, develop. We have a couple great offensive linemen coming back. 3 guys from this year's team that played a lot of varsity football. But we got to develop some depth. You want to go in, especially with that schedule we're going to be playing. You better be about 7-8 deep on the offensive line. So we got to develop some depth there. And the same thing goes for the defensive line. You got a couple of returning starters, but we need to add some depth to those guys so we can survive those first 6 weeks of the season. But a lot of great things. Our JV went undefeated. Our freshman team was 6-2, only lost to 2 fresh soft teams, so they were undefeated against freshmen. So those, looking at those guys to come plug in, there's a lot of great football players that are coming up through the ranks.
All right, so Coach, anything else that you would like to add, as this is our final show of the 2019 season? Anything you would like to recap or point out from the 2019 season?
Well, we talked about how great our community is. We talked about how great the kids are. My last shout out would probably be to our coaching staff. Those guys work extremely hard. And then also to the coaching staff's wives and families, because there's they're never neglected. There's a lot of missed time in the fall. So, our staff and their families, thank you for everything that you do for our program, because there is a lot of time and it's not easy. So, and those guys do a great job.
All right. Well, thanks, Coach. Jason and I would love to thank you, the players, the Booster Club and administration, the fans, and the underwriters of the Coaches Show and our live game broadcast. We had a great time bringing Titans football to the listeners throughout the 50,000-watt coverage area of 89.1 The Bash and around the world via the phone app or bashradio.com. We're already looking forward to next season, so with that, we would like to thank all of you for joining us here on 89.1 The Bash. And we'd also like to thank all of the supporters of the Nick Hart Show right here on 89.1 The Bash.
The Nick Hart Show has been brought to you by Ziliak Enterprises, United Fidelity Bank, Titan Youth Football League, Trapping and Removal of Animal Pest, Tin Barge Seed, South Gibson Grain, Scotty's Lawn Equipment, Scheller's Carriage Inn, Sandy's Pizza, Roberts Boring, Trenching, and Excavating LLC, Progressive Health Rehabilitation and Orthopedic Associates, by Pro Rehab, Pole Concrete Construction, MyTech Systems, Mayflower Gardens and Gifts, Make Your Mark, Lewis Plumbing and Heating, Kissel Farms Incorporated, Kiesel Enterprises Incorporated, Kathy Solman Photography, Julia's School of Dance, Johnson Commercial Mowing, in memory of Darwin and Eric Kalis, Hilliard Lyons, Matt Monroe, Hydorn Construction, Hobstadt Summerfest, Hob Range Hood Company, Gerald and Trudy Bledsoe, Fort Branch Dairy Queen, Duke Energy, Du Bois County Garage Doors Incorporated, Daylight Land Management, Cox Family Eye Care PC, Chips Sell My Teas, Brett's Car Care, and Matt Mickle of AgriGold. The Nick Hart Show is a special production of 89.1 The Bash and the Wabash Valley College Radio, TV, and Digital Media Department.